Welcome to the Think Holistic Podcast by Indie Holistic Hub, a show designed to help you on your wellness journey. When you think holistic, you live holistic. Find out more at indieholistichub.com. Now, here's your host, Jennifer Sefrin.
Hello, it's a great day to think holistic. I love the topic we are bringing to you today. It is an important awareness that needs to grow and be understood in our modern day world. We are going to talk about and address toxic overload in our environment, specifically as it relates to lawn care. I have not just one, but two guests on with me today from Good Nature Organic Lawn Care. Both Alec McClennan and Ed Hall will share their knowledge and insight with us today, as well as provide you holistic tips for your natural, healthy home. Welcome, Alec, to our show today. I really appreciate you being here, as you are the founder of the Good Nature brand.
Yeah, thank you for having us. This is awesome. We appreciate what you do.
Absolutely. Oh, yes. Well, I get to meet amazing people like you all. I'm so thankful you're in our community. Thanks to Ed Hall. Welcome. You are the branch manager here and shining the light in the Indianapolis area.
Absolutely. So I'm boots on the ground right here in Indy.
Mm-hmm. Yes, indeedy. So let's start off and let's talk about where this began and where we're at now, and the great things we have to look forward to as we begin to shine light on this topic, and more people can realize their impact that they have on our environment and Mother Earth. So Alex, would you start us off and share with us? I know a seedling was born in you back in high school.
Sure, yeah. So you want me to kind of go through how I got into this organic lawn care world?
Sure, I think that's
Cool.
interesting.
Yeah, so I guess a couple things. The first thing that happened was I was in a biology class, and the teacher came back in after a break and started class, and basically didn't talk anything about what he was supposed to talk about for biology class, but he came in and talked about how much lawn chemicals and fertilizers and pesticides were impacting the trout in the streams that they were trying to get established in kind of the suburban area that I grew up. And so that kind of hit home with me. I thought that doesn't make a lot of sense. And of course, I grew up out in the country, and we had a lot of grass, and my job was to apply the weed and feed and all the steps, to make the grass green. And so I came home, and not too long after that, my dad said, "Hey, I got the 20 bags of weed and feed in the garage. It's time for you to go put that down." And I said, Dad, I decided I'm not going to do that this year because here's all the reasons. Like, it's not good for the fish. There's a stream over there. This stuff's not good for you. And my dad's kind of a old school dad, and we fought about it for a while. And I thought, this is great. I'm getting out of all this work, and I'm helping the fish and all this stuff. And after a while, he said, that's fine. I'll figure out how to take these back, but you have to figure out something else. And so that was kind of cool. That was kind of a pivotal moment in my life. I was glad he did that. Not at the time, because as I found out, 20 bags of synthetic chemical fertilizer is kind of equivalent to 50 bags of organic fertilizer. So I ended up getting more work for myself. But through that process, back then I went to the library, read a little bit about organic options, and found some materials we could use. Back then it was composted poultry manure, and started treating my parents' lawn organically, which was fine and good and worked out fine, and never thought too much about it. Went off to college, was graduating from college. I studied engineering and decided I didn't want to be an engineer, and the jobs were too appealing to me. So I made a list of possible businesses I could start. And the idea of an organic version of a company that makes your grass green, but doesn't put down the stuff that's not good for you, kept coming back. And so I researched it and just kind of started, pretty shortly after I got out of school.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
It's so admirable that you thought, well, this doesn't make sense. And you asked questions and you were willing to step up for something different. And you were willing to make a stand. I've had other people on the podcast where they, back in school, it was like that light was sparked within them. And then some of the practices in the modern day world were in conflict, and it just requires the fortitude of your mind and your knowingness and a willingness to do something different that creates a new movement and a new wave. So thank you for being that.
Thank you. I feel pretty lucky, but it's one of those subjects that the more you learn about it, the more you question the traditional way we do things. And it started off thinking, hey, this isn't good for fish. But then when you dive into it and you learn maybe some of the pesticides aren't so good for people or pets or anybody else. And then you get into it a little bit further and you realize that the synthetic fertilizers that we put down, which are not in themselves like dangerous necessarily, they actually damage the soil food web and change the microbial balance, kill off a lot of the beneficial soil biology, which then make those pesticides that are actually a little more dangerous. The synthetic fertilizers make using pesticides more necessary, which it's a kind of a cycle that doesn't make any sense. So we said, well, why don't you just stop using all the synthetic fertilizers, and then you can stop using the synthetic pesticides.
Mm-hmm.
So the more you learn about it, the more I learned about it, the more I thought this just makes a lot of sense to do this.
Yes, and I know it's made sense to Mr. Ed as well. So let's bring you into this conversation, Ed.
Sure.
When did good nature enter your life? And tell me how it's impacted what you're doing here in the Indianapolis area.
Sure. Well, for many years, I was in the corporate world, in facilities management, both in retail and also in real estate. And just got kind of tired of the corporate grind and really wanted to kind of do my own thing. And so I started to do some research on different things. And I've always loved lawn care, just really taking care of my own lawn. And so I kind of started doing some research on different things that I could do. And I thought maybe I'll start a lawn care company. And it just so happened that I come across Good Nature. As I've gotten older, I'm more concerned about what I put in my body. And when I come across Good Nature, Alec had actually had a Facebook post, and it's kind of interesting. He's known for kind of his goofy Facebook posts and some of the advertisements that are kind of catchy, and it just kind of caught my eye. And so I started doing some research and realized there really wasn't any organic options in Indianapolis. And so that's kind of how I reached out to him, and that was almost 5 years ago. Actually, we're coming into our 5th season, so it's been an interesting ride. It's been a lot of work, but a lot of fun, and met a lot of great people like yourself along the way. So we're continuing to grow, and just opened the south and west sides of Indianapolis too. So now we completely cover the entirety of Indianapolis and the metro area. So we're excited about that.
That is something to be excited about. I'm excited for you. I'm excited for our community. I think that's such just a good omen for what's happening here. And I know your desire was to continue to grow and to wrap all around the Indianapolis area, and you've done it. So the demand was there, the interest was there, and you were able to build your team to serve. So what was that like, being able to grow things? And were people initially receptive to this? Like, what has the mindset been of people embracing the organic lawn care?
Are you talking generally in Indianapolis or just across the board?
I mean, I'm curious about Indianapolis, and perhaps Alec can talk across the board too.
Well, I'll quickly talk about Indianapolis. So it's interesting. I do some interviewing, and we're interviewing to hire new technicians now. And I always bring up the fact that, I believe we're almost 25 years old as a company, and coming up on 25 years. And I share with them, that can you imagine Alec starting, Good Nature 25 years ago, and what that would be like, organic lawn care. I'm sure a lot of people thought it was just kind of snake oil, but we've been well received in Indianapolis. It's really been kind of exciting to see that snowball effect. And, just once you get out and the word gets out, it just kind of grows from there. And just to be able to see people's excitement When you get on a lawn and somebody tells you, I've never had anybody on my lawn before. I've never had a lawn care company on my lawn before, and you're the first. That kind of stuff is just really gets us going. It's really exciting to be able to see people's reaction to that. So, like I said, Indianapolis we've been well received.
Excellent. I like hearing that. How about for you, Alec? If it's been almost 25 years or has been 25 years, what's that journey been like?
Yeah. So in terms of how we're received, I mean, it's definitely way back in the beginning, people kind of laughed at what we're doing. Like, you're doing what? Why are you doing this? And, you get a customer on the street and maybe their lawn we've come a long way in 20 something years to, in terms of kind of the results we can get. But back then, maybe it didn't work, nearly as well as it does today. And our client might have a lawn that sticks out in the neighborhood, and there might be pure pressure from their neighbors to, kill your dandelions or whatever. And what I've noticed today is that now in those years, a few things have happened. One, we've figured out how to do this a lot better. So we can make the lawn a lot healthier so it doesn't stick out, in a neighborhood full of people who are treating their lawns chemically. But then two, what I've seen is the peer pressure is different. It's not as much, hey, kill your dandelions, as much as it is from people who choose our types of service, might say, hey, don't use all those chemicals. So it's pretty cool to watch the change in attitudes over the last 20 years, where people have gone from wanting to just kill everything to wanting to be way more aware of what's going on and what we're doing in our yards.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The other cool aspect too is, the organic perspective, the approach does take, a little bit longer to reach the desired result. So now going into the 5th season, and we've got customers that have been with us the whole time, to be able to see the results that we're getting now from their lawns, is really exciting. That's kind of what kind of motivates us and keeps us kind of jazzed up about the whole thing, is really going back to customers who have been with us the whole time and really getting that feedback from them that, my lawn has never looked as good as it has now. So that's always an exciting thing as well.
Mm-hmm. I know for like my own self, my husband and I, when we first had our home, and I knew I didn't want to spray our lawn, and there was this mindset so ingrained in us because of what we grew up around and what we thought people's perceptions were, what they were doing. And so to have the dandelions or things like that, I mean, we really it took a mindset shift to be like, no, this is Mother Nature. This is glorious. I mean, actually I can eat dandelions. Like, this is a beautiful thing, so through time, I've learned those things and realized those things. So some of it's like, well, what are we calling beautiful? And yes, let's have luscious, healthy land. Like, I've started getting into gardening and growing our own food here. So like, I'm just looking at things at a whole other lens of like, let's really have healthy soil. So I'm glad to have some good nature around me to support me in that.
Awesome.
Absolutely.
All right, let's talk a little bit more. Alec, you started talking about the cycle of like the pesticides and the fertilizers, and let's talk a bit more about what you have realized along the way in terms of the impact these things are having on our environment, as well as people and animals.
Sure. So I'll start with a disclaimer by saying, that's not my focus. My focus is there's a lot of good documentation out there about the potential effects of the different chemicals. There's, Roundup in the, lawsuits, and there's a cycle of pesticides. What typically happens is, you get a new one that comes out and it's okay. And then 10 years later, they restrict it a little bit. And then 25 years later, they take it off the market, but they've got a new one. And so I spend my time focusing on how can we create healthy plants, healthy soil, healthy grass, more than worrying about what are the negative effects of the chemicals. But
Sure.
We do get, and we were talking about this beforehand, so I can read something here from a client. We got an email the other day. It says, we currently have 4 dogs, and unfortunately one of them was just diagnosed with bladder cancer, which our vet advised us that this diagnosis typically is seen in dogs who are exposed to pesticides and herbicides. As you can imagine, we were devastated to hear this, as we have been using a chemical lawn care company to treat our lawn the last few years, blah, 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 blah. And so we get those, it's probably a day doesn't go by that we don't get some kind of a story like that.
Absolutely.
And the other one was a woman who said that her parents, her mom and dad had Parkinson's and something else. I can't remember off the top of my head. Lymphoma. And she credits that to them running a lawn care company when she was a kid. And so to be able to help someone like that, go organic with us is pretty cool. So I don't know if that's what you were asking about, but that's kind of the.
To your point, I want to hear from you guys, whoever wants to talk to this. How do we create those rich lawns, that rich soil in a way that's it's healthy for our homes?
Ed, you okay if I talk about this one, Ed?
Absolutely. Yeah.
All right, cool. So I think that it starts with a few things. One, when you build a new house, and there's a lot of new houses going up around Indianapolis, they're basically, they're digging out the basement, they're moving soil around, they're bulldozing it. So really all those, like the biology that is alive and healthy topsoil really doesn't exist when you have a new house. So that will come over time, but with an organic approach, we can try to speed that up. So one of the ways you do that is just by providing organic matter. And that can come with compost. The fertilizers we use contain concentrated organic matter, which is really the building blocks and the food for healthy microbes that can then create a soil food web that supports really healthy plant growth. So that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to feed the soil and then let that feed plants. With a synthetic fertilizer, you're skipping the soil and you're feeding the plants directly. And what happens is that salt in those synthetic fertilizers can actually, when it's applied over and over and over and over again, can actually reduce the amount of beneficial soil organisms that you have. And so the plants become totally dependent on the fertilizers. Where what we're trying to do, and then why Ed was saying, it can take time, because it does take time for those, those microbes to build up in your soil, but we feed them. And then we add new microbes and, doing things like just mulching your grass clippings can help. Mulching your leaves in the fall, instead of raking them up and sending them away to the composting facility, chop them up with your lawnmower before you do any raking. And that'll give you a lot of, good organic matter. It's like putting compost on your lawn. And studies have shown, I think it's Michigan State, but don't quote me exactly. But if you mulch your leaves, you have way fewer dandelions the following year. So just things like that are really helpful to improve your soil and create healthy plants.
Mulch leaves, less dandelions. Okay, that's good. I'm going to tell my husband that one.
There you go. and it's just run them over with your mower. You may have to do it a couple times, and then maybe at that point you rake and you end up with 10% of the leaves in your pile that you would have if you didn't mulch them.
Yeah, and so that's less work in the end. Yeah, that's
Absolutely.
I love that so much. Anything
that's one of the that's a lot of the suggestions we will give in the fall, when the leaves are coming down, to let our customers know that they can actually help their own lawn. That's that free fertilizer, that free compost. So
exactly. Sure. Free. Let's use what we have that Mother Nature gave us.
Yeah.
Use it to its fullest potential.
Absolutely.
All right. So what else have the people you've been working with, what have you seen happening with your clients, and as things grow? Like, what's the vision for what you're doing with Good Nature?
Ed, you want me to talk about this? You want to talk about in Indianapolis first, and then I'll take it over maybe the bigger picture?
I can just briefly talk about Indianapolis. Yeah. Indianapolis is an interesting city because of, there's really so much growth too. So like Alec had mentioned with the newer lawns, newer lawns come with a whole host of challenges. But we've got a lot of different things that we can do to really kind of impact that soil. It does take time. We can do soil testing, which very few actually lawn care companies do, which I'm a big proponent of that because we can actually see kind of what's in the soil at the moment and how we can kind of affect that. But that it's one of those things, like I said, with the growth of the city, we get both kind of older subdivisions, older homes, but we also get a lot of newer homes too. So it's just being able to be able to manage a program that can really facilitate kind of all those types of lawns. So that's one of the things we're focused on, is being able to really facilitate, the landscape of newer and older homes and older lawns.
That's good to know. So no matter where you live or how new or older home is, you can come test the soil and you can make a plan to get that to the desired goal of healthy lawn, right?
Yeah, and the approach may be different, for each home. It could very well be different. It's going to be different from a newer home versus somebody who's been in their home for 50 years, and the soil is probably has a lot better organic matter in it than a newer home does. But Alec can talk about just kind of where we're going as a company.
Mm-hmm.
Just to kind of touch on that point a little bit too. Ed's totally right. If you've been in your home for 50 years, or if it's been there for a long time, a lot of times the soil has had time to form those biological communities and it's healthier than if it's a new build. And sometimes in those cases, the grass types are the problem. And so you want to look at maybe getting different grasses into the lawn.
Okay.
versus in a new home, usually they're planting pretty good grass varieties, but the soil is really tough and it won't support, the grass very well. So we would come in and soil test and send it to the lab and then look at it and use nutrients, specifically to get that soil balanced. And what we find is when we get the soil balanced, everything else is healthier. There's fewer problems. And then the biology can start to grow. So that's it was great point there, Ed. But from the good nature perspective, so we started in Cleveland in '99, and it was just the idea to show that, hey, this is possible to take care of your yard without chemicals. And we got to a point where we felt like we were doing that, and then we opened an office in Columbus about 10 years later, so 2008 2009, and trying to figure out how to run a business so that we can deliver really good service to people. And we felt like, okay, we had that figured out. So then 5 years ago, Ed joined us, and we partnered up and opened up in Indianapolis. And since then, now we're in Chicago and Pittsburgh. And the hope is every time we go into a new city, people say, hey, this is awesome. We've never had an option like this before. And so what kind of drives us is we love hearing that. And so we want to give people that option. So we're continuing to look for good people to partner up with in different cities through kind of the Midwest.
Mm-hmm.
And then we're also developing a little more of a built out do-it-yourself program. So if someone doesn't want to hire a company, we're trying to give them the tools to be able to take care of their yard themselves without having to resort to the stuff that you find in all the big box stores. But that's basically the deal there. And
I love that.
For us, it's cool because we like doing the service we do, and it's fun to grow people and have people grow along with us. We got a great team, and we want to keep providing opportunity for them to grow professionally too.
Mm-hmm. Well, I love that you're developing out that kind of product. Do it yourself. Some people are just that kind, they like to do it themselves, right? So that'll be a beautiful thing for them. And then you're always in their back pocket too, if they need to come on site and lend a helping hand. So
Sure.
Yay, I'm sending all the best as you continue to develop that out. And as you continue to hear about other communities that don't have that option, and supporting that to grow in other Midwest towns and cities.
I'll mention one more thing that is kind of parallel to that is actually maybe two different things. One is schools, parks, athletic fields.
Yeah.
So I'm a big believer that natural grass is better than synthetic grass from an injury perspective and just an overall health perspective. Heat, like all the stuff with the synthetic fields, I don't think is amazing. But then if you're going to have natural grass, I think it's way better to treat it organically than to use all the pesticides on it. So one thing we love doing is helping schools and parks and communities that have athletic fields treat their fields organically, whether we help them do it themselves or whether they bring us in to do some of the work. It's Ed and I both grew up enjoying sports, and that's one of the things that's great about grass is you can run around and it's a great surface. And so we really get a kick out of providing a healthy surface for kids to run around, play soccer, football, all their baseball, all their stuff on. So those are a couple things we do.
I love that. So do you go into schools and talk to them about that, or do you get people referring them to you? Like, how are you developing that out?
Almost every school district or community that we're in started with the citizens, almost kind of banding together and going to their administrators. There's a few that came the other direction where the administrators just said, hey, I sense this is the right thing to do here. But typically I've found that school and city kind of officials have plenty of things to do, and nothing becomes urgent until it's brought to their attention and there's been some organizing involved. So
yeah,
that's typically what happens is someone, has a kid and realizes they're playing on some fields that are pesticide treated and then gets a group together and voices their concerns.
yes, it's very important. That's what it takes.
Yeah.
Coming together, voicing our opinions and our heartfelt desires to create the change that we're looking for, especially when it comes to our kids and in schools. And I love that. Ed, are you getting to do much of that here in Indianapolis?
Yeah, I was just talking to Alec this morning about that. We have one of the townships in the area. They've asked me, this is, I think, the second or third year where I've been able to actually talk to some of the council members and some of the citizens. So, we're always open, to go and talk to people and just kind of share our ideas. And, they ask a lot of questions. So yeah, we definitely, I know that, Cleveland, they do some of the metro parks there, and I believe they do some in Columbus. We haven't had that opportunity yet, but we're definitely open to it, and soccer fields and ball fields and all that kind of stuff. We would jump right into that, but it really starts with the conversation. And so that's really what I try to facilitate as much as possible, is just opening myself up to being able to just have that conversation with who's ever interested.
Yes, yes, yes. Well, I will encourage anyone that's listening in to this. You are the go-to, and congratulations, Ed. You all have been part of the Earth Day Festival in past years, and I think are going to be this year as well. And you can tout yourself out as what? The only lawn care company invited to that?
Yeah, we, if you think about lawn care companies, almost all of them exclusively are what we call traditional or chemical use companies. So us being organic, we fit right into the Earth Day mission. And so we got an invitation a couple of years back and have been able to. We didn't do it last year, but we're going to be doing it this year. And we kind of obviously wear that as a badge of honor. Being able to be invited to do Earth Day Festival is something that's really, really exciting for us, because we're just kind of around our people then.
Yes, exactly. You deserve to wear it as a badge of honor. So, and thank you for being here to take on that badge. All right. We end our show, guys, with some holistic tips. And I know you have a few of those to round out our show here with everyone today. So Alec, are you taking the helm on sharing the think holistic tips?
Sure. Yeah, I can do that.
Okay, awesome. What do you have for us? So these people got to start stepping towards their organic lawn care.
Yeah. So I guess there's a few things just to kind of touch on some of the things we already talked about. One basic thing, stop kind of damaging your microbial communities, your soil biology with synthetic fertilizers and pesticides, and switch to organic. So that's one kind of tip. But outside of that, I'd say one thing that you might consider if you're interested is we do some things where we actually plant clover in people's lawns. And what clover can do is it's really cool. It helps your lawn stay greener over the hot summer without requiring a ton of water, like a normal lawn would. And so you mix it with your regular grass, just add it on top of your existing lawn, and it clover has a symbiotic relationship with this beneficial bacteria that fixes nitrogen or fertilizer out of the atmosphere. So clover does not take over your grass, it actually feeds your grass. So when you add clover to your lawn, it helps, reduce other weeds from coming in, as well as feed your grass, so you don't have to fertilize it as much. And it just keeps it greener over the summer with less water. So that's something that from a reasonable distance, it looks just kind of like a normal lawn. When you get right up on top of it, you can see the clover. The micro clover that we put in flowers less than traditional white clover does. So you don't have as many of those white flowers during the spring. You have some. So that's one thing. Micro clover is good. I don't think we mentioned this one before, but one thing we're getting involved in that I think is pretty cool, instead of, hiring a company or getting out on your lawnmower, we've gotten involved in installing some of these robotic lawnmowers for folks. And, you can do that yourself too, but you end up with a battery powered lawnmower that uses a fraction of the, emits a fraction of the carbon in its overall, in the production of electricity and everything, compared to a regular lawnmower. And you get a nice quiet mower that keeps your grass cut all the time. And it's a good way to have a lawn where you're not having to use chemicals, because it cuts it every day. So if there's any flowers growing that you don't want people to see, it keeps them trimmed off, so you don't have to look at them all the time. So a little robotic lawnmower is generally a nice way to get your lawn cut.
That's neat. I've not heard, like, I can just go buy, like, can I just look for one and go buy one, like, off the shelf somewhere?
Yeah, you can I think you can get them at some of the box stores, but there is a little bit of installation involved. So sometimes you look online and there's companies that can help you. We can help get those set up for you, and it's a kind of a cool way to go. And then I think that, other than mow high and leave your clippings, those are probably our tips.
Beautiful. Thank you for your tips. Thank you for your insight through this conversation today. Is there anything, Ed, did you want to add in anything as we wrap up here? Do you have any final thoughts or words?
No, I know you're going to share the website if people are interested, and like I said, if, we're always here to just even answer questions. And I would encourage the do-it-yourselfer to reach out to us as well. I know we've got several customers now that contact us and order our stuff and come and actually pick it up, or we have a chance to deliver it if they're in the area. So, there's just a lot of opportunities to be able to go organic, not just use a company like ourselves. That we're more than happy to do that as well, but do it yourself. We just encourage people. We want them to have a beautiful lawn organically, whether it's us doing it, them, a combination, or just them doing it themselves.
Mm-hmm. So the moral of the story is, these guys are awesome, genuine, and call up Good Nature Organic Lawn Care. They'll answer your questions, help guide you, and they'll assist you if you're needing that as well. So follow them. You can see all the details about them, including the website in the notes, whether you're tuning in on our podcast or YouTube. And you can go to their website at, if you want to jot it down, whygoodnature.com. Again, www.whygoodnature.com. You can also follow Indie Holistic Hub as we keep bringing you more information through the Think Holistic podcast. And we always have our free to use online directory available to you, as well as a community calendar. So go source that at indieholistichub.com. And thank you for tuning in. Remember to think holistic and be well, everybody.
Thank you for listening to the Think Holistic podcast by Indie Holistic Hub, a show designed to help you on your wellness journey. When you think holistic, you live holistic. To find holistic professionals near you, go to indieholistichub.com.